Also out of BC. BC College
Of
finds
course.
nurse guilty of professional misconduct over gender views. This is Amy Hamm. Uh, People know her. We love her. She's a journalist and a
Mhm.
nurse. And her governing body, the BC College of Nurses and Midwives, ruled that Amy, a registered nurse and a journalist, committed, quote, professional misconduct for what? Expressing her views on sex and gender in published articles and public advocacy. So this goes,
Mhm.
she's been just like dragged for 5 years almost now.
Yeah.
She writes in
Actually,
the
one of
Post
my
Millennial,
oh, sorry.
National Post, Redux. Sorry, no, you go. You know the story better than me. I just wrote it up yesterday.
No, no, no. I was just gonna say one of my very first reports was racing out when I had heard there was the I Heart J.K. Rowling billboard, and that's where this all started. Actually, it went up in Vancouver Burnaby intersection on the cusp of that, and it was only up for I don't remember the exact time, but like maybe 3 hours max. And I got out there, and that's when I first met her. That's when I first met Billboard Chris. If you guys have been following these issues, you know who both of them are. And city councilor Sarah Kirby Young put in a complaint, and that was taken down so fast. But her nightmare, that's when it began. She had people who were never her patients, just these activists that we know come after you when you're first born when you do these types of things, putting complaints to her college against her. And for that, she has been professionally persecuted for years. And her hearing like her hearing was almost 2 years ago, I think that it began, and then, of course, it gets
Yeah.
stretched out and things like that. Like, it's just been a nightmare for her. She's had threats of being words I can't say, on a live stream on YouTube, and threats of harm to her family while this is all happening, and the whole time she has stood very strong in her principled, arguments such as males should not be in women's rape shelters or,
Yeah.
women's prisons, like, um, that male Tara DeSouza who identified, I don't even know if I could say this either, but into a women's prison in Abbotsford that has a
Yep.
maternity program. So there's children in there. And he's done some horrific things you can imagine to babies. So these are the principled stances that she takes on behalf of safe, safe, safe sex-based spaces. And this is what happens to her in the nursing profession with these tribunals that we see keep failing society over and over.
Yeah. I mean, this is exactly, or at least sort of what happened to Jordan Peterson, where people who were not his
Mhm.
patients were making complaints to the professional body. And then the process
Yeah.
really is the punishment. This has been 5 years of Amy's life. 5 years. She's a
Yeah.
mom. She works hard. She's, like the rest of us, got bills to pay. She's out there fighting, like you said, for sex based rights. But
Mhm.
Amy is a fighter, and she says the fight isn't over, and she'll always fight for free speech and women's sex-based rights. She'll have more to say in the future. And even in this, the professional body sort of contradicted themselves. So Amy is right. She argued none of this has any bearing on the work that I do as a nurse. It doesn't make me a bad nurse. So stop it.
Mhm.
Um, they found her guilty of professional conduct for her published writings and advocacy work. So it wasn't like she was writing in the BC Nurses
Yeah.
Journal. Like she
Yeah.
wasn't writing in one of their publications. She's writing in the National Post. Um,
Yeah.
and frankly, the only
Wow.
reason we know she's a nurse is because these people complained. I wouldn't know
Yeah.
she's a nurse. I would just think she's a journalist. Um, the college determined, this is where it gets like hypocritical. The college determined that most of her personal social media posts were not sufficiently tied to her work to warrant additional findings of misconduct. So, how is she guilty of professional misconduct, but also not guilty of professional misconduct otherwise?
And the other thing that's so injustice, it doesn't say who made these complaints about you. You don't get to know who actually just destroyed your life over the last 5 years. Like
Right.
it could be your neighbor. In this case, it obviously wasn't. But they get to say whatever the heck they want to say and put you through this witch hunt and no accountability for even who they are. One little moment, that I know she appreciates is I don't know if you caught this, but it's kind of fun. J.K. Rowling around Christmas time actually bought her, I think it was a Gucci, but a designer
Yeah.
purse around $5,000 just because Amy put up a picture saying like something like, I love this purse, wish I could have it. I don't remember what she said. And J.K. Rowling, for everything she's gone through, just said, it's yours for Christmas. And she bought
Yeah.
it and sent it to her. So,
Yeah.
the thing is, as far when we see this all the time, when these people get persecuted for taking the stand for what's right, the message gets out way further. And that's what these radical, rabid activists don't get. They're actually making the message get out to way more people. If they didn't make a big deal, people would have drove by the sign and half of them wouldn't even understand what it meant. They'd be like, yeah, Harry Potter books were great. Like, but then you go,
Yeah.
oh, that's what it means. So, which, because J.K. Rowling shares the same type of views, of course, on this issue. Ah,
Yeah, it's the activists on the other side that propelled Billboard Chris into stardom and fame. They're the ones who
exactly.
actually propelled Jordan Peterson into an
Hmm.
international sensation. Uh, it's the Streisand effect. When you try to hide something and stop people from looking at it, as was the case with Barbara Streisand's house. She complained that there was a picture of her house circling around, so then now everybody knows what her house looks like. And it was such a dumb idea for her to, like, try to get this picture of her house censored, and that everyone is like, "I wanna see it then. What is this
Yeah.
thing you don't
Now
want
I
me to
want to see
see?"
it.
Exactly,
Yeah,
so
totally.
they'll never learn. They'll never learn, and that is, if you have a Christian worldview, that's the Lord using all things, isn't it? Even the
Yes.
bad, for his purposes.
Oh, hi, it's Ezra Levant here in Toronto with an important message because we need your help. Independent journalism in Canada is under attack. Government censors, big tech deplatformers, and the dying legacy media are all working together to maintain exclusive control on the information you receive. They don't want you to hear other voices like ours, and they really don't want you to be informed and to think for yourself. That's why the work we do here at Rebel News is so important. Our on-the-ground reporting, independent news shows, and special content you won't find anywhere else. It's all designed to give you trustworthy information and alternative viewpoints so you can decide for yourself. We don't get government money, and we are not owned by some big global conglomerate. We're funded by people just like you, so please support independent journalism and help us continue our work by subscribing and becoming a Rebel News Plus member today, right here on the page. Go to rebelnewsplus.com.